The arena hung like a drunken crown above the pulsar storm, its orbit kept steady more by ego than engineering. Officially, it was called Scarla Prime, the Intergalactic Conflict Resolution Dome. Unofficially, it was known as the Blood Broadcast, because even bureaucracy needs good ratings. 70,000 beings occupied the seats, hovering, oozing, huddling, or vibrating in polite anticipation. The air reeked of burnt licorice, formaldehyde incense, and diplomatic tension. One section pulsed with mucus-based applause. Another spat celebratory steam. And somewhere near the central dais, a Trilith monk floated upside down in existential dread, whispering, "Not again, not again, not her." In the center of the arena, a ceremonial platform the size of a small city rotated slowly, wrapped in shifting terrain and adaptive biomes. Today's battlefield, apparently, would involve something chaotic and warlike, as designed by the Fletchari Ministry of Engagement Aesthetics. It looked like someone had smashed 6 ecosystems together and topped it with a weather system that hadn't made up its mind. The screen above flashed into life. 8-dimensional projections flared across the dome's curve. The crowd roared, blipped, howled, or, depending on the species, shed defensive spores of excitement. This was what they'd come for. Not negotiation. Not policy. But combat. The voice of the announcer slithered through the arena like oil on glass, amplified by thousands of language translators and the occasional sarcasm converter. Welcome, esteemed citizens of the Accord. Peacekeepers. Symbiotic elders. Loose collectives of consciousness. It's that time of the cycle again, when we trade treaties for titanium, and diplomacy gets its weekly decapitation. More cheering. One species began excreting a foamy hormone in anticipation. A cleaning drone exploded. Today's conflict resolution duel, the voice continued, will determine the fate of Outpost 17 Tau, home to rare graviton minerals, several moderately sentient tree species, and at least one taco stand. The dispute. Who gets it? The Zorgans, who say they planted a flag, despite lacking arms, or the unified Terran enclave, who say it belongs to everyone, especially if everyone means humans. Boos echoed at the word, humans. Not universally, but loudly enough. The general galactic view of Earthlings had mellowed over the decades from accidentally dangerous to charmingly expendable. Their contribution to the Accord mostly involved art, snack innovations, and stubborn emotional outbursts in diplomatic forums. Militarily, they were background noise. Comic relief. Usually. Now introducing the challenger, the announcer said, stretching the syllables like a flex, representing Zorganic dominance and the holy chain of crushed skulls, Third Fong champion of the infernal tournament of melted worlds, wielder of the Doom Hammer Nebula, Gorthax the Skull Splitter. The arena shook. Gorthax emerged from the northern gate like a walking disaster. 12 feet tall. 4 arms, 3 of which were legal. Armor made of extinct volcanic crusts. A skull motif that was more literal than symbolic. His hammer, a thing of ridiculous scale, dragged across the stone floor, sparking blue flame with every arrogant scrape. He raised one fist and howled. Somewhere in the crowd, a Thargan child screamed in ecstasy and immediately passed out. On cue, the crowd began chanting. Dozens of languages, same rhythm. Gorthax. 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 He basked in it. Raised all 4 arms. Thumped his chest. Flexed unnecessarily. Then crushed a small decorative statue that had been placed for ambience. One of the arena hosts wept softly. Odds for Gorthax to win are currently sitting at 1.02 to 1, the announcer purred. He's the clear favorite. Of course, that's before we reveal his opponent. A hush. A long one. The kind of silence that slinks into a room ahead of bad news. Representing the unified Terran enclave, the announcer said, almost apologetically now. Backed by unexpected demand and a legal loophole involving a coffee trade agreement. We present human combatant, Mira Halden. It was as if someone had unplugged the galaxy. Half the crowd went silent. The other half exploded into overlapping arguments. Tentacles waved. Spines bristled. One bureaucratic gelatin spontaneously reabsorbed itself in panic. The Trilith monk wept openly. And one very old, very drunk ambassador screamed from the upper tier. Hell no. It's the woman sniper again. The gates creaked. And Mira Halden stepped into the arena. She was small. Not short, but unimposing. Built like she'd been constructed for practical use. Her clothes were black, plain, dust-worn. No armor. No shields. No neural assist visible. Just a long coat with sun-faded sleeves, and a rifle slung across her back like a secret. It was old. Terran make. Bolt action. Wood-grained. The kind of weapon that had no right existing in a galaxy where most wars were fought with sonic compression fields and dark matter filaments. But Mira carried it the way other beings carried truth. Quietly. Without apology. She didn't smile. Didn't wave. Just walked to her starting mark and stopped. Gorthax growled. This is the opponent. Yup, said the mollusk-shaped moderator who floated nearby, now visibly sweating through its outer mucus. I have consumed her kind before, Gorthax rumbled. Mira tilted her head. Didn't chew enough, apparently. The crowd gasped. A Julari diplomat fainted into his feathers. A betting drone recalculated odds in real time, glitching momentarily at the sheer absurdity of its new data. The announcer's voice, tighter now, tried to regain control. Well then. How? Thrilling. The woman sniper returns to the blood broadcast stage. Last seen disarming a Tholark siege titan in 17 seconds with one bullet and an unfortunate piece of plumbing. Her record stands at 3-0. Her method? Statistically improbable. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Because the thing about Mira Halden, what made even the bravest, cockiest, most heavily armed beings pause when her name was spoken, wasn't just the weapon. It was the fact that she never fired twice. Once. That was all. The first time had been a diplomatic hostage crisis in the inner sectors. She'd walked in unarmed, walked out with every enemy unconscious and the hostages singing folk songs. The second had been at the Torvac arena. Her opponent, a psychic giant crab named Riesel, had vanished into the stands 3 seconds after the match began, muttering "nope" in 30 languages. The third time, well, the footage of that was classified. But enough rumors swirled about a single shot ricocheting off 6 gravity mirrors and stopping a war. Gorthax hadn't been briefed on any of this. Or he had, but didn't care. Most warriors didn't. Until they realized why the name Halden got whispered like a warning and spat like a curse. Now he shifted uncomfortably, glaring across the arena. You think one bullet can stop me? She blinked once. I think you're late to realize it already has. He lunged. Not officially. Combat hadn't begun yet, but Gorthax wasn't big on rules. The arena buzzed in protest. A hover referee flared a red light. Mira didn't flinch. Just tilted her stance, letting his shadow pass across her. Her hand remained off the rifle. The hammer struck the ground beside her, cracking the stone. Dust rose. Mira stepped through it. Effortless. Clean. You're burning calories, she said. I'm banking them. In the control tower above the field, several diplomatic observers muttered furiously into their datapads. One Flethery assistant panicked and began rewording 5 alliance treaties preemptively. On the wall behind them, the public odds recalibrated again. Mira Halden, once a 13,000:1 underdog, now held a modest 320:1 chance to win. And climbing. Back in the arena, the announcer sighed. Well, folks, we're off to a contentious start. Will Gorthax crush humanity's last hope underfoot? Or will Mira Halden, the woman sniper, once again teach the galaxy that being underestimated is a tactical advantage? The lights dimmed. The terrain shimmered, locking into place. Combat status. Primed. Mira looked up at the stars overhead, took one breath, and whispered to no one in particular, Let's make this quick. Because she wasn't here to fight. She was here to remind them that she never missed. Gorthax the Skull Splitter flexed all 4 of his arms, sending a series of subsonic cracks across the battlefield that rippled the air and caused a small bird-like drone to suffer critical existential confusion and crash into the dirt. He was built like a siege engine given delusions of poetry, brutal in every motion, theatrical in every breath. His ceremonial armor gleamed beneath the arena's controlled starlight, a grotesque lattice of irradiated bone, heat-welded metal, and war trophies from species no longer on speaking terms with physics. He stomped once. The earth trembled. Two Thargon scholars in the audience adjusted their seats nervously, both pretending this was still predictable. "I will reduce your atoms to anecdotes," Gorthak snarled, pointing the hammer. 2 meters of compressed antimatter alloy with the subtlety of an opera in a canon. Mira stood across from him, silent, unflinching. Her rifle remained unslung. She seemed bored, or perhaps just considerate of everyone's time. The collar of her coat was turned up against the wind, though no wind stirred. Her stance, however, spoke, feet apart, shoulders angled slightly, like she'd drawn a line only she could see and dared anyone to cross it. She blinked. The announcer's voice chirped, suddenly nervous, trying to retain some semblance of the upbeat chaos this event usually promised. "Well, that's some bold energy from our Zorgon Titan. Gorthax is known for his kinetic diplomacy. And on the human side, we have, well, still Mira Halden. No biometric armor, no plasma shielding, no visible support crew. Perhaps the Enclave is making a philosophical statement." The sarcasm was thin. The fear beneath it was thicker. From the far edges of the arena, dozens of minor species leaned closer to their viewing orbs. The last time Mira had stepped onto a battlefield, the camera drones lost her signal for 7 minutes and reconnected just in time to capture the collapse of an entire armored division. There had been no footage of what happened in between. Theories abounded. None were comforting. Mira shifted her weight just slightly, as if mentally adjusting the shot that hadn't happened yet. Her fingers tapped her side once. Not nervousness. Calculation. On the edge of the arena, a small bureaucratic lizard being turned to its datapad and asked aloud, "What's her specialty again?" The AI assistant flickered. Mira Halden, Earth origin. Background, confirmed participant in Concordance rebellions, Operation Wormsong, and the Saturn collapse. Role, sniper. Weapon of choice, Gen 1 bolt action, Terran make. Confirmed hits, 37. Shots fired, 37. The lizard being stared. "You mean she's never..." The AI interrupted, flatly. "She does not miss." Gorthak stomped again, this time with enough force to trigger a mild tectonic reaction in the lower gravity plates. Mira didn't move. Her coat flared slightly from the shock wave, as though it had thoughts of its own. "Where's your fanfare, little human?" he bellowed. "No chant, no banner, no gods to kiss before your end." She tilted her head. "I don't kiss things I'm about to outlive." A few gasps. One snort of laughter, quickly stifled. Gorthax paced, voice booming now. "You don't belong in this arena. This is not a place for ancient tools and obsolete meat." "Strange," Mira said. "You seem very alive for someone who hasn't noticed he's already inside the story where he loses." In the upper deck, a Flethari diplomat shivered and whispered to no one. She speaks in narrative structure. Across the galaxy, 1,000 analysts revised their betting models. Below the field, in the locked-off control room where combat rituals were processed, an overworked analyst by the name of Kez tapped furiously at his console, trying to identify whatever pattern was making the audience predictions so volatile. "She's not statistically consistent," he muttered. "She doesn't follow heat maps, she doesn't optimize cover use, she doesn't even, she uses wind?" Beside him, his superior leaned in. "She's using dead physics?" "Dead Earth physics," Kez replied, mouth dry. "She's shooting analog." The superior paused. "Send a warning to the betting syndicates. Flag all Mira Halden wagers as volatile myth class." Back in the arena, Mira finally unslung her rifle. She did it slowly, deliberately, with a sort of motion that carried the weight of folklore. The weapon looked ancient, scarred with use, but utterly loved. It glinted beneath the artificial sky like it had been waiting to be here longer than most of the spectators had been alive. Gorthax scoffed. "You intend to use that toy against me?" Mira opened the bolt, ejected the chambered round, caught it mid-air, held it up. It was hand-inscribed, crudely scratched in old Terran script. "For memory." She slid it back in, closed the bolt. The click echoed louder than Gorthax's last roar. The arena announcer tried to recover the crowd's pulse. "Well, there it is. The famous rifle. We're being told it's been used in all of Myra's official matches. Same round chamber size, same barrel length, no AI assist. Which, of course, makes it wildly outdated and, less lethal by modern standards." The lie collapsed under its own weight. Because everyone remembered the last match. The Tholark siege unit. How one shot from that outdated weapon had shattered not just a machine but an entire army's belief in victory. Gorthax wasn't breathing evenly anymore. Mira was. "Why do you fight like this?" Gorthax demanded. "One bullet. One shot. Why put your whole outcome in the hands of chance?" "No chance," she said. "Just inevitability." The announcer's voice returned, thinner now. "Combat will begin in 2 minutes. Final bets closing. Safety protocols disengaged. Remember, this match determines full territorial rights to Outpost 17 Tau." In the high chamber, Grand Adjudicator Lemtris pressed a claw to his comm unit. "Do we have a statistical survival forecast for Halden?" "No," came the reply. "Her file ends in ellipses." Lemtris exhaled through his dorsal vents. "That's not a good sign." The final ritual began. A hovering drone dipped between the two fighters, trailing a ribbon of plasma to mark the battle line. The terrain around them whirred softly, trees clicked into place, stone formations hissed into programmed configurations, ambient fog levels rose to cinematic. Gorthax tightened his grip on the hammer. "Any last rites?" Mira scanned the arena, not the crowd, but the layout, the vectors, the distances. She saw where the fog would drift, where the light would refract, where he'd probably step first. She said nothing, just stepped over the battle line. The drone flashed green. Gorthax's time hammer roared to life, and Mira exhaled. The announcer's voice cracked slightly as it declared, "Commencing intergalactic duel. Weapons live. Combat is officially." The rifle's bolt slid forward. Gorthax raised the hammer. Myra's finger curled. "Begun." And for one impossible second, everything in the galaxy held still. Gorthax surged forward with a force that broke sound. His hammer arced through the air, dragging gravity distortions in its wake. Behind him, the ground cracked open like a scream. His war cry shattered nearby foliage and warped the fog layer into a wave of sonic distortion. It was not an elegant attack. He didn't need elegance. He was a siege with legs. Mira didn't run. She stepped left. Barely. The hammer passed through where she had stood, not with a whoosh, but a compression ripple that temporarily reversed air molecules. A bird-like drone burst into flame from proximity. Gorthax snarled, pulled the hammer into a vertical spin, and brought it down again. Harder this time, a diagonal swing engineered to disintegrate everything beneath it. Mira crouched. Not in panic. In calculation. She let the downward force glide past her body and kissed the edge of its wake to assess radius and delay. She rolled once, gently, then stood again, the rifle still held low. She hadn't aimed yet. Gorthax roared again, louder this time, not out of triumph, but out of confusion. "Fight me!" he thundered. "Shoot!" Mira walked. Not fast. Not evasively. With deliberation. She stepped through steam and distortion with the quiet confidence of a woman checking off a to-do list. Her eyes flicked upward, calculating the arc of falling debris, the phase glimmer of a terrain shimmer node, the bounce of light off her opponent's shoulder armor. Variables. Probabilities. Already catalogued. Her internal monologue was calm and cruel. Wind shift. 3.2 kilometers per hour. Left to right. Terrain grade. Uneven. 14%. Gorthax's swing cadence, 1.3 seconds between strikes. Weak side, back right limb, compensating for overstride. Tactile aggression, high. Tactical thinking, nil. He struck again. This time, she jumped, not backward, but into the hammer's path, landing just ahead of the impact zone. The crowd screamed. She dropped flat as the hammer slammed down inches behind her, sending shockwaves forward. She let the wave push her across the dirt, using its force like a borrowed tide. She rolled mid-slide, rose to a knee, and checked her rifle's bolt. Still ready. Still loaded. The crowd didn't understand what they were seeing. Most never did. They came for brutality. 4 limbs torn off and posturing and explosions. What they got instead was Mira Halden, making silence into a weapon. She finally brought the rifle up. Not fully. Just a test raise, scanning along a broken line of trees where the artificial fog was thickest. The AI director dimmed the arena's upper lights, trying to compensate for the loss of visual drama. But that only made her silhouette more precise. Gorthax had never fought someone who didn't engage. He charged again, faster this time. Her eyes locked. The terrain buckled behind his steps. Time to impact, 2.7 seconds. She shifted 1 foot, rotated 23 degrees clockwise. Oblique trajectory. Confirmed. He was screaming again. Not a war cry this time, confusion masquerading as rage. You're not even trying. She raised the rifle, but didn't fire. Instead, she adjusted the scope, half a click left. A correction. He came closer. Closer. The hammer raised. Her breathing slowed. Impact vector. Predictable. Recoil compensation. Unnecessary. 1 shot. 1 breath. He struck. And Mira disappeared. To the audience, she was there. Then she wasn't. A blur, a flicker, a stutter in the visual feed. Even the arena cameras blinked and lost her for 0.6 seconds. Gorthax struck stone and screamed in rage. Face me. Behind him, Mira reappeared, kneeling atop a boulder, perched like stillness itself. Rifle leveled. The audience caught up. A low gasp built into a hum. Her voice carried. You've already lost. You're just noisy about it. She fired. The sound was thunder, but not theatrical. No echo, no second act. The bullet left the chamber, slicing through heat distortion and fog with intimate precision. It hit a fragment of floating metal, deliberately, ricocheted off a terrain deflector shield Mira had identified minutes earlier, then curved, impossibly, and struck Gorthax in the back right exoplate joint. Not a kill shot. Not even a wound. But exactly where the stabilizer node linked to the hammer's power core. The weapon sparked. Then shut down. Gorthax stumbled. His massive frame wobbled as one leg buckled. He tried to roar again, but it came out as a hiss, forced through gritted mandibles. Mira didn't move. She didn't need to. The rifle's barrel smoked gently. Her expression didn't change. The arena went silent. No music cue. No instant reaction. Just recognition. 1 moment ago, this had been a fight. Now it was a conclusion. The hammer, once glowing, now thudded into the soil, inert. Gorthax reached for it. His fingers scraped its grip. He pulled. Nothing. Dead weight. He turned. Slowly now. The arrogance had drained. The fear hadn't risen yet, but the doubt had begun. You, he whispered. You cheated. No, Mira said. I studied. He dropped the hammer. His eyes, 4 of them, locked on her. You're a monster. I'm the punctuation. What? She raised the rifle again, almost kindly. You're the sentence. I end it. He lunged, desperation now, wild, stupid, heavy. She fired again. This time the shot was direct. Center mass, between exoplate ridges. It hit his torque relay. The kinetic feedback spun him mid-air like a broken weather vane and dropped him hard, sprawled, paralyzed. Alive, but not standing. The arena erupted. Not in cheers. In panic. The announcer stuttered, lost in his own broadcast delay. "We have a tentative result. Combatant Gorthax is, down. Unable to engage. The victor, pending confirmation, is Mira Halden," she finished, already walking. She didn't wait for a drone declaration. She didn't raise her arms. She didn't look back. The rifle was already slung over her shoulder again. The fog parted before her. Artificial wind kicked up around her boots. Somewhere behind her, Medbots scrambled to check Gorthax's vitals and prevent him from emotionally unraveling. In the stands, silence fought with disbelief. Then someone whispered. "She didn't even run." "No," another voice said. "She waited." In the command box above, Admiral Jasai of the Third Fleet stared at the footage, then turned to her aide. "Update the dossier," she said. "Halden's not a variable anymore. She's a law." "And her threat level?" Jasai didn't blink. "She's a weaponized thesis statement." The aide hesitated. "And what category does that fall under?" Jasai stared down at the battlefield where Gorthax twitched in the dust. "All of them." In the control center, data streams churned. The betting market imploded for the third time in a decade. A dozen species revised their military doctrine. 4 generals resigned. 1 ambassador fainted. Mira reached the exit gate. It opened for her. Not in recognition. In relief. Because everyone watching knew the same thing now, clearer than any headline, sharper than any sensor readout. You don't prepare for Mira Halden. You adjust after she leaves. It took 17 minutes for Gorthax to regain motor function. 10 more to realize no one was chanting his name anymore. The once god of carnage lay in a crater he hadn't intended to make, surrounded by confused medbots and neural recalibration drones too polite to tell him outright that he'd lost. They merely hovered, waiting for him to accept gravity again. In the audience, the noise had gone from riotous to reverent to unnerving stillness. A sonic vacuum. No cheers. No booing. Just the mental recalibration of 70,000 beings who had just witnessed a fundamental law bend around a human with a bolt-action rifle. The announcer tried to inject enthusiasm. And there you have it, citizens of the Accord. A surprise win from the Terran combatant. A riveting match. A reminder that probability remains a delicate concept. He coughed, metaphorically, then dropped the mic, literally. It rolled off the platform with a thud that echoed like a eulogy. Back in the high box, Admiral Vel of the Zorgans sat motionless, arms folded, face unreadable. His aides whispered frantically about appeals, loopholes, and technicalities, but he silenced them with a single raised claw. He knew what they didn't yet. Appeals were for misunderstandings. This had been precision. Undeniable. Broadcast in full clarity to 6 star systems. Across the galaxy, governments and war colleges had already begun redlining strategy docs. Phrases like human unpredictability, lone operative protocols, and sniper-class redefinition were underlined in blood-red digital ink. The Enclave, that soft, artistic little cluster of Earth settlements, was suddenly being viewed less as a cultural curiosity and more like a pocket knife accidentally left inside a diplomatic envelope. On Xeron 6, a retired general-turned-tactician looked at the footage again and tossed his command medals into a waste incinerator. On a Lorik broadcast station, a popular war games commentator tried to spin the narrative, maybe Gorthax let her win for political reasons, and was immediately laughed off the air by his own guest. Because you couldn't spin it. She hadn't won with luck. Or power. Or tricks. She'd just been better. In the underworld markets, betting syndicates declared bankruptcy en masse. Thousands of contracts were frozen. One particularly angry crime boss on Vega Prime placed a bounty on whoever invented gravity, as if that would balance the books. Mira, meanwhile, had already left. She walked out of the arena through a service corridor not meant for champions. Past the post-match interviews, the sponsor booths, the declarations of honor. She declined the drone that offered her a commemorative chalice. She handed back the victory Sasha, trembling in turn, tried to place over her shoulder. "No," she said quietly. "I'm not the trophy." She made her way through the corridors of Scarla Prime's lower decks, utility tunnels, rusted and unloved, where steam pipes sighed and the lights flickered like they were trying to forget what they'd just seen. Her rifle rested against her shoulder like a sleeping thought. The footsteps behind her, there were always footsteps behind her, never lasted long. A few bold journalists. A diplomat or two. Sometimes a spy. Today it was a child. Not a literal one. A young cadet. Nervous. Thin. Wearing a uniform 2 sizes too large, and a curiosity so big it barely fit in the room. "Ms. Holden." Mira stopped. Turned. He flinched a little. Then gathered himself. He paused. What you did." She raised an eyebrow. "I watched every match," he continued. "I studied your movements, your timing, your geometry. But you don't follow a template. It's like you break rules that haven't even been written yet." She waited. "So how do you know where to shoot?" There it was. The question they always asked. As if there was an answer that would make it safe. Make it replicable. She looked at him for a long second, and then said, "I don't shoot where they are." He blinked. "I shoot where the lie breaks." She turned and walked away. The cadet didn't follow. Behind her, in the darkest corners of galactic space, new legends began to unfold. Holovids of the duel looped endlessly. Young recruits whispered her name before training exercises, half in admiration, half in defense. It was said that if you studied her footage long enough, you'd see your own mistake in the next 5 seconds of your life. The Accord quietly convened a special session, off-record, of course. Representatives from 6 species met to determine if Mira Holden constituted a weapon of mass destabilization. The motion failed, not because they disagreed, but because no one wanted to be on record opposing her. On Earth, her name trended for a day, then faded. The Enclave released no statement. They never did. Earth didn't brag. It didn't wave flags or hold parades. That was the unsettling part. Because if someone else had fielded her, if Mira had come from some empire, or mercenary guild, or corporate war faction, they would have dressed it in myth by morning. But Earth just let her walk in, win, and leave. Again. In a remote outpost on the edge of the Orion Divide, a squad of soldiers were shown the footage as a cautionary tale. Their instructor played it once. Then again. Then shut off the screen and said, "She doesn't just snipe bodies. She snipes momentum. Understand the difference." Back on Scarla Prime, days later, 2 maintenance drones found something wedged into the sand where Mira had stood. A single spent bullet casing. Polished smooth. Etched in human script. 4 down. Still listening. They sent it to the archives. It vanished en route. Some said she kept it. Others said it never left the sand. But everyone knew what it meant. Not revenge. Not declaration. A promise. Mira Holden didn't fight to win wars. She fought to prevent them from starting again. And now, no matter the quadrant, no matter the flag, no matter the race, when whispers rose that Mira was back, no one laughed anymore.